Hello, everybody. Good morning to some of you. You might still be a little bit morning out in the West Coast. Good afternoon and good night to a lot of us. We're all over the world, and I love GatherVerse for that very sake that we are connecting all over the entire planet. I am Grant McGaw. I'm the CEO of 5 Star BDM and host of the Follow the Brand podcast and TV show. The panel today, we're going to discuss technology, humanity, and the metaverse, which involves exploring the intersection of advanced technology, the human experience, and the emerging concept of the metaverse. Technology has revolutionized how we live, work, and communicate, but it has also raised questions about its impact on human life and society. The concept of the metaverse, which refers to a virtual space that integrates differentiated forms of digital content, has gained attention as a potential new frontier for social interaction and economic activity. Exploring these topics will involve discussing the history and development of technology, including the rise of artificial intelligence, blockchain, and other disruptive technologies. It would also require examining the potential benefits and risks associated with the metaverse, including issues related to privacy, social interaction, and economic inequality. In addition, an introduction to technology, humanity, and the metaverse would need to consider the ethical and philosophical implications of these concepts, including questions related to the nature of reality, identity, and community in a world increasingly dominated by digital technology. We will discuss a broad and interdisciplinary perspective on some of the most significant and rapidly evolving areas of modern life. With that said, I want to introduce our panel. And the way I would like to introduce our panel, have them introduce themselves, is first give us their name, but talk to us about the big problem that you are solving by utilizing the metaverse as a good introduction. So with that said, I'm going to go down south of me, which is Samantha, because I believe she's got a lot of things she wants to share. Samantha, you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, Grant. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited to be here, especially as a curious learner myself on all things metaverse, but also to discuss the human side of the metaverse for sure. I am located in the Charlotte, North Carolina area. I'm the founder and CEO of Connect More, where we provide corporate consulting for companies during their digital transformation journey. And I'm also the creator of the Human Code. It's a unique solution that drives smarter, faster decisions with team alignment, honoring and respecting our diversity to think different but speak unified.
Awesome. I love the introduction.
Thank you.
All right. So we're going to go over to the other side of yourself, right? We're going to talk to, and I know his first name is Matthew. I'm going to let him pronounce his last name, and we want to get him introduced. What big problem are you solving with the metaverse? I think you're muted. Can we unmute him? I think he's muted. Unfortunately, we'll have to get him settled out. So let's go to Ricky. Ricky, you out there? You want to introduce yourself?
Hey, great to be here. Yeah, my name is Ricky Hauk. I've been working in enterprise metaverse software for a couple of years now. My main focus is really more on the extended reality side of the metaverse, that surface experience layer, and trying to kind of break through screen fatigue. Like, how do we create more meaningful, more engaging virtual interactions with each other? That human-to-human connection is really my focus.
I love it. I love it. Great focus. Great photos. How about Heitor? Heitor, you out there?
Hi there. Good evening. Thank you for inviting me over. I'm based in Barcelona, Spain. I work for Pico. We are offering our VR headsets for enterprises, and I'm ahead of the team that overlooks Latin America, Mediterranean, and Africa. So the answer to your question, Grant, is that we are using VR to enhance knowledge transmission in a broader sense. Let's discuss it later.
Awesome, awesome, love that. Matthew, are you back with us? Can we hear you?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry about that. So I am Matthew Munyao. I'm the founder of Virtual Israel and the Africa Meta Club. And I'm also part of the founding team of Benkiko DAO, which is a Web3 company, which is a Web3 wallet, bridging Web2 and Web3 and allowing Africans to transact easily with crypto. So majorly at Virtual Israel, what we do is we offer Metaverse services. We're a Metaverse studio. And the reason I joined the Metaverse as a Metaverse studio is because we wanted to bring inclusivity, because I'm from Africa, based in Kenya. And when you visit the Metaverse, you realize that most of the cultures are represented, but Africans are a bit left behind. And so my opportunity and my goal mostly is to bring diversity in the Metaverse by introducing real world experiences, and more so real world experiences that resonate with Africans where I come from. And so it will give us a chance to bring more people from this side of the world.
Awesome, man. I love that thing. Great cause. That's definitely have some legs to that. I want to talk to Lisa Payton. You out there? We got to get you to get
Muted.
off.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I unmuted myself, but I think they put me back on mute because others were speaking. So I'm so grateful to be here and love being on the panel with all of you. I am Lisa Payton. I am a professor at the University of Oregon studying immersive media communications and technologies. And I've been in the marketing and communications industry for over 20 years. And the problem that this is, solving for me, which is what I've built the backbone of my career on, is connecting to audiences in new ways and driving meaningful connection, which is exactly what we're using technology to do today. So I'm really excited about how immersive is going to kind of help solve bringing people together in a global community and driving those meaningful connections.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm agreeing with you all the way there. We're going to go just a little bit south of you, and that's Ignacio. You like to introduce yourself?
Yes, first of all, thank you for inviting me. My name is Ignacio. I'm originally from Argentina, but I live in Miami. I'm the co-founder of ROUNDTABLE Labs. It's a Web3 studio. And what we do is we support companies and artists in the exploration of NFT and Metaverse, mainly US-based companies or artists. And we are building mainly in Meta Horizon worlds, while we did something in Roblox. But yeah, we are focusing our attention now in building in Meta. And for us, so what we are trying to achieve is we are trying to educate, because there's a big component of education and I will say like supporting companies to understand the metaverse and what they can do and how they can do it properly. So our focusing in education and then offering accessible solutions for companies who want to have their first step in the metaverse.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, very good use case. I love it. And then Salman, you like to introduce yourself?
Of course. First of all, thank you, GatherVerse, for having me. My name is Salman Halawi. I am a Lebanese entrepreneur, futurist, and keynote speaker. And I'm the founder of Meta Designers, which is a platform that we created to connect brands with service providers that are trusted all over the world.
That is great. That is great. So welcome. Love everyone here. You all come from very diverse backgrounds and how you look at things. And this is going to be a round robin discussion, I mean, an open discussion. There's no one person that's you're next. No, you're going to feel the passion and you're going to chime in just like we were sitting together in a group setting, and we're going to have a discussion around humanity and the metaverse and how this is really impacting today and tomorrow. So we're going to start with a very, very simple question. What is the metaverse and how it might impact our lives in the future? Who would like to step to the mic with that question?
I would love to step to the mic for that question, Grant. And it's actually not a simple question. I would say it's one of the most complex questions. And I might actually, I have a definition, and I'm going to read it because I've been working on this definition of what the metaverse is for some time, really since 2000, early 2000s. And this might cause some controversy, but I honestly don't think that the metaverse, in the way I just define it, exists today. So let's just start there. And the way that I define it is as an open, interoperable, persistent network of virtual worlds offering access to 3D virtual spaces, activities, and environments created by users. And we don't have that today. What we have today, I would argue, is a group of private clubs. We don't have this beautiful, open and welcoming, interoperable space for people to come and kind of play. It's so I think part of the discussion today and conversation we're having is how do we get to that, place where it is open and interoperable, and we can hop around. We can go to a private club, or we can go to an open public space as well if we want to, but I don't think we're there yet.
I love that. I love that. Who can chime in on this definition? How do you see the metaverse?
Can I start with just busting a myth that I actually believed and that it was the same as Facebook? I can't tell you how many people have made that same assumption. And so for me, like I said, I'm an avid and curious learner, but I feel like it's the beginning of a collaborative, community-driven digital ecosystem.
That's a very straightforward sentence. I love that. I see come on, don't be shy. Come on up.
I was just gonna say, I'm so glad that you said that, because I remember my previous company I was working for, we were just kind of dabbling with, okay, let's pivot out of virtual events into full on, like, what is the metaverse? How do we get into all these other use cases of virtual world building? And everyone we talked to was like, so wait, are you part of Facebook? And that was always the first question with that rebrand. So I think it is really important. Like, the metaverse is not one company. It is not one product. It is more of this conceptual idea of kind of where we can go with virtual world building and communications. And I love Lisa's point about interoperability, because the reality is, if all we have is these little siloed virtual worlds where you have to be a part of this one little club to access it, then we don't have this inclusive, accessible virtual environment where people can interact and build together. And I think that interoperability is one of the biggest roadblocks that we're going to have to overcome with things like, standardization of avatars as an example. If you have 20 different avatar builders for 20 different tools, that's not the best user experience, first of all, to be able to onboard and join a world. And then also, I heard someone from Accenture talking earlier at GatherVerse about that same idea, that you start to get confused about your own identity. If you have 20 different looks and 20 different virtual worlds, then who are you? Like, you don't have any ownership over your own identity anymore.
Wow.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the main challenge is like interoperability. And I know I'm asking it, but do you think it will happen? Because like, if we see, like, for us, and I know it's an unpopular opinion, like, the metaverse will be ruled by like the biggest company and the one that has the most adoption, because we know how companies work, and nobody wants to share access to their data, and nobody wants to share access to their like back end. So they all work in silos, and that's why we have so many metaverses and so many like worlds. So, and this is my personal opinion, I think like what will happen is Meta, or some of them, like, will be the ruling metaverse, and we all, I think we'll be all like be living in that metaverse. Because like, for me, I don't think we are going to pass the interoperability challenge. I don't know, what do you think?
Okay,
sorry, can I step in?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, Ignacio, but that's where we should be raising awareness over data ownership and over the many things that Web3 itself stands for, and the many reasons why the metaverse is here and is being created. And that is to create a platform where it's safe, it's decentralized, and the tech giants are not ruling your data. You control your data. And it is our job to speak against the monopolization, or else we're just giving Web3 a disguise.
Interesting.
I like what you said. I like what you said.
Matthew.
Yeah. I was to answer Ignacio's question on interoperability, and I believe the metaverse will be whatever we want it to be. Like, as developers, for example, as Salman has said, when it comes to Web3, it's like we don't have a middleman anymore. If you look at the past generation of technology, like in Web2, where you saw the rise of social media applications and the big tech, it was because of the centralization of the internet, because we didn't have the power that we have right now. For example, if you look at the metaverse at present, the most popular metaverse platforms like Decentraland are very open, and it's open source, it's run by a DAO. So I would say if we just continue developing on Web3 and do it very fast before like the centralized bodies go ahead with their plans, I think we'll have something that is created by the users. If you look at the Web3, metaverses are very, very diverse because it's the creators that create them. We make the decisions on the DAO and we create on our virtual lands. So it's not like someone is going to come and make the decisions. So I think with the opportunity that Web3 and the blockchain presents, we're able to create our own digital economy as we see fit. And that's the direction that I usually encourage most metaverse developers to go. So I think we have a lot more power in our hands.
This is how we get the discussion moving forward that we have, because there is no real one definition, I think, in the metaverse. I remember I asked the same question to Christopher Lafayette, and he said, the metaverse is a world of interaction and communication. And when you look at it like that, we're already in the metaverse. Now we're talking about a new reiteration of a technology platform. And the colloquial term, I would say, you look at VR, there's virtual reality, which is totally immersive. Then you've got augmented reality. It's the combination of both. I'm kind of like in an augmented reality now. I'm physically standing here in my room, but I'm interacting with you at this point in time. And then there's that singular physical reality. All these three realities are starting to merge and come together as one. I would tell you this, as I've gone into the metaverse and meaning in VR world, virtual reality, it's a fantastic technology because I completely form or move my consciousness from this physical world to this digital reality, and I'm moving around in it. I can't do that in a 2D world. So it's very intriguing type reality. We'll see what the adoption will look like. Here's the question as we think about this, because it's an open landscape. It's like you arrived at this new land. There are no laws except the laws of nature. Maybe we call that the laws of physics, right? So that in the development of the metaverse, as I just described, let's just talk about it as a virtual reality construct. What's going to guide the ethical consideration, like data privacy, like Matthew kind of talked about? You talk about access for all, the interoperability. How do we ensure the development of this type of platform?
I believe the most important way to achieve that is through proper governance. Just because a certain platform is on the blockchain, it doesn't make it decentralized. And this is where DAOs step in. This is where trust comes in. I mean, we're building consensus. We're building trust with Web3. And I believe that with proper governance, we will achieve a certain layer of what we're talking about.
Yeah, I think that there's an opportunity here to do things a little differently than we did during the last wave of digital innovation. So we've all seen some of the recent court hearings, right, where we're watching regulators try and catch up and talk about regulation over the current state of the internet. And it's laughable. Like, a lot of it turns into memes, and we're like, we have all these lawmakers that don't even understand basic fundamentals of how social media works and how these users behave. So I think now, as this new era of emerging technology develops, what we need to do is work a little closer with lawmakers and regulators, get them more involved and have them seek an understanding at an earlier stage in the process. Because the reality is there is a lot of mirroring between physical regulation and ethics and values and things that we've already learned and started developing things in the physical world that we can take and put in place in this virtual world as well. So I think the closer we work with governing bodies, the better we will be. I don't know if it's realistic for us to completely circumvent all existing governing bodies today and form this kind of idealistic, decentralized environment. I think there's an opportunity to challenge the way they do things today and to think differently about the way that we handle them in the virtual world. But there has to be a collaboration. There has to be a conversation. You can't just completely undercut the existing system, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm going to add here that I think if we rely on regulation, we are effed, to be honest. And I, ideally, I agree with you, but I think the most first and foremost, most important thing we can all do is be good digital citizens ourselves. And this requires media literacy. And I've heard a lot of people today during the GatherVerse talk about the importance of education around XR and getting people to, but you know what, it goes beyond that. I teach students, and I want to say hello to Oscar, who is one of my students here today. And hello, Oscar, love it that you're here. But many of them who are graduating seniors in college still don't understand where their news is coming from as a very basic thing that everyone needs to know today. And so the first thing is to first own your own journey with technology and understand truly how companies are trying to manipulate you. We all have to understand that. And then we have to kind of grapple with how we are affected by the technology, and everyone is affected differently. I have a very personal relationship to technology and how it impacts me on a daily basis. And I've spent a lot of time understanding the effect on me. And to do that, you have to take a moment and you have to be still and you have to be quiet and you have to pause and you have to do these things. So many people aren't doing that today at all. We get carried away, and the technology is built to be a slot machine for your brain. That's what Meta, they're smart. They use tools that release dopamine that we all, and so, but you know what? They don't control my decisions around how I interact with the technology. I do. So I think we all have to start there as a bottom up approach, right? We can go top down with regulations, but if we can do bottom up and get people really smart on what's really happening behind the scenes, I think that is the way. That's the way, right? Get people wanting to maybe move away from the private clubs and go to the public gardens.
That's an interesting thought. Very interesting thought. Let's continue down that. When I think about Metaverse, and I think about when we just talked about laws, regulations, taxation, all the stuff that we normally get, I think of international waters. What are the laws in international waters? What does that look like? And all the countries play in the international water space. And they know as they get closer to other worlds or other places, then the laws change and everybody's in agreement with that. Look at in the banking industry, we came to an interoperability or an IP that everybody agreed upon. And that's why you can bank anywhere in the world utilizing, an ATM card, just for instance. So I say all that to say this, because you brought something up. And what we're getting into, we got traditional forms of entertainment, right? You got television, you have radio. Obviously, social media has become very, very, very big. You have streaming, like we're on right now, live streaming. The metaverse is a game changer because the people that have that kind of control are losing it because the audience is moving. The audience is moving somewhere else. How do you see the metaverse as a disruptive force to current entertainment?
I have so many thoughts on this. I'm just going to go ahead and jump in. So, first of all, I think it's going to take some time for it to get to a place where it's like very standard or we see the real trend. I think that once we have AR glasses that are wearable and lightweight, that's going to change everything, right? Because all of a sudden we'll have access to entertainment just in front of our face whenever we want it. We won't have to hold this device up for 20 minutes to experience something interesting. But we're already seeing people start to play with that, like Disney with the film Remembering that they dropped, where you could hold your phone up and have this world of the Disney movie on your TV start to expand out into your living room. And what I think about is like what Spy Kids 3 tried to do with 3D glasses in movie theaters and totally failed because the technology wasn't there for it. But with the way AR is going now, we actually could have movie theaters completely change. To be a spectacle again, to be something that is a different experience to just streaming the content. Like, yes, it's nice to have the cushy chairs or a cocktail or the couple things they're trying to introduce to give that spectacle back. But if you can start to integrate things of the screen legitimately coming out into that environment around you, that's interesting. And the little things we're seeing with QR codes now, I think there's lightweight, like 15 to 30-second versions of it we'll see in sports. So like we just saw the NBA let you take a body scan with your phone and then put yourself in the position of a player dunking on another player. Like, that's pretty cool. You could watch yourself dunk on Shaq. How amazing would that feel? And I think advertising has an opportunity to incorporate that. But the second you get past to 30, 60 seconds and you're holding that phone up any longer, I think we still have a barrier there that's kind of preventing you from doing more long form content.
Interesting. Who else would like to chime in on this discussion?
I think I can contribute. I've been hosting some virtual events for a while now, like for different brands and for communities. And what I've realized is that people haven't gotten there yet because of, let's say, hardware or accessibility issues, but the kind of immersion and the experience that is available in these virtual worlds is like 10 times what you are used to. For example, if you're watching a live show on YouTube, it won't be the same as watching a live show in the metaverse with your avatars, and you are able to interact with everyone around you. So it's like the next level of technology. I tend to term the metaverse as the 3D social media. So like the way we are used to interacting in digital communities, in digital events, now bring this to a virtual world that is like our digital twin. So whatever is happening in real life when you go to a physical concert is something that you can replicate in the metaverse. And like my colleagues are saying, it's going to take time before we get to the point where you are fully immersed. Because right now, if you are using AR, you go to hold your phone, or if you are using a VR headset, you have to withstand all that weight on your head. But I think we have already seen how people are receiving these technologies. For example, we usually have events on Decentraland, and my most important thing is not that they usually have low numbers, like below 10K, compared to YouTube videos or other platforms that get millions of users. But the point is, these users are always coming back. But it's not that they don't like it. It's because the other users cannot access this metaverse or virtual experiences like them. So maybe someone has a VR, but most people don't have, or even right now using AR, not all mobile phones are able to access AR. So there's that barrier in technology, and that's the only issue. But when you look at the immersion and the experience of these events, it's like we are replicating physical experiences in a virtual way. So whatever people usually like in the physical world, they'll be able to get it while sitting in their sofa or just in their bedroom without having to leave their physical location. So I think that's what I look at when I say the metaverse is going to come in 5 to 6 years. It's because of the hardware issues, but the technology is already here with us.
I want to hear from Heitor. Heitor, you're in this space. You are developing. You work for PicoXR. You're a VR company.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
respond to our question around it being, from an entertainment factor.
I was listening to everyone's opinion. It's quite interesting to hear, I mean, different sides of the same coin, right? Or the same prisma. What I would like to, well, just to mention is that I'm not the entertainment part of what I'm responsible for is called LB, location-based entertainment, right? It's one of the 4 verticals that we offer our headsets to be used, right? So you can see like lots of different ways of interacting with a given content. So let's say the Museo Nazionale del Cinema in Turin, Italy, they have like more than 60 headsets simultaneously there, always available for you to go there and to experience it. And it is only adding another layer of entertainment, like it won't be the same as going to the actual cinema. It won't be the same as walking on the street. Right now, it's not, right? But we need to understand also that this kind of entertainment is also available, also for shooting zombies at arcades, also for interacting with your friend, like the technology is broader than this. So, and also entertainment, right? It all depends on your own definition of entertainment, but one of them for sure is using a VR headset to socially interact in a virtual world.
Very interesting how you're at, that's almost augmented reality. You're doing it all simultaneously, physically, virtually. This is interesting. I know, Ignacio, you're in this space. You are you're a leader of a company. You're doing certain things in this. How do you see this whole thing evolving in your world?
So I also agree that it's a hardware problem now. Like the technology is still not there, because even if you use like the latest VR headset or the latest glasses, like the experience is not the best, and that's why like people use it like for 20 or 30 minutes. So I see this, like, for me, what I see like the space going, there was like a lot of hype like last year, I will say, and now with everything that is happening in the world, like there's like inflation, crisis, a war. So I think like it's slowed down, even like investment in the metaverse, not only from like a VC perspective, but even companies, they decrease their investment in the metaverse. And I think this is the moment, and I agree what Salman was doing, that this is the moment, was saying that this is the moment for us to educate companies who are like leading all the developments in the metaverse, like Meta, because Meta has hardware and software and the user database, the Decentraland, whoever is like building metaverse technologies. Like, since we are now in, I would say, like the initial phase with like a lot of experimentation, now is where when we build the foundations and we talk about data privacy, like the use case that it could be entertainment, like the work of the future. So there are a lot of use cases. So yeah, I see the space growing, and I think we are going to be in a digital world. I'm a very digital person. I still think that we are not there yet. Like most of the population, they don't care about VR, they don't care about the metaverse. Yep. So it will take some time to be adopted, but it will be adopted. I don't think that's into discussion. The problem is how we are going to have it in our daily life, and what yeah, because like another important thing is like education, because like now it's a lot of inequality, not only in terms of money, but in education. We are adding more layers in terms of technology, and technology itself requires, like for us, and I think we are all like tech people, it's like basic, but you need a pretty, yeah, I would say decent amount of knowledge, not only in technology, because it's a science. So it's like my I would say like the challenge will be to keep this in a way that is inclusive, diverse, and everyone can be part. So it's going to be challenging.
I tell you, I thought about this question, this next question. It ties into everything that we're talking about. And this question is talking about like the risks, the downsides associated with the metaverse, like addiction, social isolation, lose touch reality. We got to look at where we already come from or where we're at. People get lost in video games. You know, when I go to work, I'm actually a digital worker. I am, you know, how many hours of my day am I in front of a digital device inputting data and exchanging data? I got news for everybody. We're already socially addicted. Right? We're digital workers for the most part. I bet everybody here is most likely a digital worker. You have some moments that you do some physical interaction, but you're really interacting digitally on a number of different platforms. So the question comes down to what are the potential risks and downsides associated with the metaverse? Not just even the metaverse. We like I said, we're already there. Now it's just a matter of the evolution of it. Where do we go as human beings really being immersed in a technological society?
I'll take a stab at that. I was gonna say, you know, I just did a real refresh of Ready Player One, the movie. If you've seen that,
Oh yeah.
I think that's great. If you haven't seen it, I think it's great to give you a perspective of what I feel like Metaverse is, and I think they call it Oasis. But you can see really good examples of how that addiction can impact families and livelihoods. You know, from your financial statements, right? And also just that getting, you know, as humans, that we're so connected digitally, we have that opportunity back to once we stabilize that gap of the hardware issues and giving more capabilities across the board to have that ability to engage in that activity, but then be careful not to be so disconnected as human beings, right? So that losing touch with our true real reality and what makes us human beings.
Interesting. We have some other perspectives.
Well, I'll jump in. I don't think that's the biggest downside or risk that I'm worried about. I'm really worried about companies that are beholden to shareholders owning this new metaverse, this new universe. That's when we're going to run into huge problems. If we have this, and I'm going to go kind of use my definition of the metaverse, which is ideally this really, you know, digital and nature, we all know, are becoming one thing. And the metaverse is going to be a reflection of what we have in the real world. And someone said that earlier. And that's really, you know, when we think about this shared digital space that we're creating, it is a mirror reflection of what we have here now. And these two things are coming together. So if you just imagine if a company that is beholden to shareholders, that is looking for short-term gains, that is based on profit, owns the sidewalk, owns you know, public parks, owns, I think we're all screwed, to be honest. And that's just, and my fear is we're really headed in that direction. And I'm not optimistic. I come from industry, I come from business, that we may have jumped off that cliff already. I don't know. I'm here honestly watching, and part of this to gain some hope. And there are some amazingly, you know, hopeful stories that I heard today of people that are doing amazing things, like Sarah, who's off doing her amazing AI for Indigenous peoples, and that gives me some hope in humanity. But man, I'm a skeptic, you know, and just looking at some of the comments around, you know, the amazing thing that is, you know, Horizon World.
But the thing is, I think that's not only applied to Metaverse. Like what you are sharing is like the problem of this side of the world where we are more like capitalistic. So it's like that's, I would think, but I think there's some hope because now companies are like starting to evolve and like they are changing this, I would say, mission to only, bring value to the shareholders, and now they are moving to a more sustainable. And I think that applies to Metaverse, but I think it's even worse because the Metaverse is in the future, but now we are having this problem and we are being affected by companies. It's even worse, the problem, because it's not the future in the Metaverse, it's what's happening now. I think at some point it will change, but I agree with you. I don't have an optimistic vision of the future. So Ready Player One, here we go. It's like it's going to be controlled by a company. So it is what it is.
Mike, before we go down that rabbit hole, we need to understand where we've already been. I remember these similar kind of conversations when video games became very addictive, I would say. A lot of our kids were involved in them. And now they're college courses. And these kids are obviously they're listening to GatherVerse now. They're growing up now. I mean, my kids grew up doing a lot of video gaming, but they stopped and they evolved and started doing other things. It's a thing, something to do, but it's not everything. I think it's really a novelty right now. It's something that we're playing with, and we say, okay, what are we going to do? But when we can integrate in the humanity function, it's got to serve a purpose. It's got to be able to serve a powerful purpose. It's got to be able to do something that we can't do. We talked on another panel about disabilities. Hey, how can we enable someone else who can't walk to be able to walk? That's a great thing. We start looking at somebody that can't see that they can see. So you start looking at how can we really enhance our world and not be destroyed by it. Because if we let the technology just run on its own, we run into all these situations that we're talking about. We have unchecked greed in humanity. That's a big problem. When I talked to Christopher Lafayette, he talked to me about there are going to be governments that actually control a lot in the metaverse. They actually are doing it right now. That you will go into a country or a city, and that city, that is the metaverse, and the country owns it. It's not an entity owns it. It sort of like becomes a utility, like in the electric grid, or other things that are more public property than just complete ownership. So I wouldn't get so much caught up in the fear of what it could be. Now, we have to understand there's certain things that are good and they are bad. But just like I said earlier, we are now, right now, in a digital construct. We're physically there and we're digitally there. There's nothing wrong with that. And we're having great conversation because we're using it for the greater good. That's my view on that. But the question comes down like this, and I'm glad, Matthew, you're back. Because the question came up is like, the metaverse is intersecting with emerging technologies like AI, artificial intelligence, obviously the virtual and the augmented reality. We start looking at all these things coming together and maturing because we have infrastructure that can support it. What do you think that impact's going to be overall? Well, you can't, just like now, you cannot work right now without being tethered to some kind of digital device. What would you say?
So yeah, sorry for that. Sorry, I had some issues with my laptop, but I'm back. Glad to be back. So I think the metaverse, AI, blockchain, and all these new technologies are converging in a
I think he just stuck. That's too bad. He's about to get interesting. All right, who's going to take up the conversation?
Well, I wanted to just share a little bit of optimism for a second, because I think it's important. We were talking about all these risks, and with emerging technologies, like there's a balance, right? Like you need to be excited about the possibilities and how this can help us innovate and move forward as a society. but you also need to be skeptical and realize that just because we have ideas of what it could look like in 10 years doesn't mean any of us knows what it'll look like in 10 years, right? AI is actually a great example of one. I think we need to be really careful of actually slowing down a little bit, because move fast and break things could break things a little too much. It could be really dangerous for where society goes, right? And so I want to share a little optimism just because of my own perspective. Like, I grew up where video games had a lot of propaganda of like violence and blaming like bullying in school and mass shootings were all because kids were playing Call of Duty. And I was one of those kids that was like not allowed to play Call of Duty because the blood was red, but I could play Halo because the blood was blue. And that was a huge thing. And then now we're seeing all these studies that show that it's actually not correlated at all. Violent games don't actually lead to violent kids. In reality, it's actually the opposite. These video games have proven to be an amazing health and wellness tool for kids to actually work through their issues and be able to grow and expand their consciousness and become more well-rounded, not less well-rounded. And so I think that there's an opportunity for us to take what we've learned from online gaming and what it's been used for with kids and bring that to the corporate world, to adults, to how we interact and have our events and our meetings. And that's something like I'm pretty sure most people on this call are probably this person for their community, but I'm definitely like the VR guy of my apartment. Like most of my neighbors have never tried VR before. I've got 2 headsets. And so I love showing people VR for the first time. And it's so consistent. They get this childlike smile, this giddiness, this little bit of laughter with something as simple as like an Angry Birds game. And I think that there's something about that sense of awe and that emotional connection that you can provide for someone, where we have companies spending millions and millions of dollars trying to create that through avocado toast and Friday lunches and stuff like that, right? Like, I think that, yeah, maybe 10% of users are going to be locked up in their house and live in a VR headset. And then there's going to be 10% of people that don't touch it at all and are purists that just live in the world. But the other 80% of us, I think we're going to live somewhere in the middle there where it's not going to be so overly addictive or anything. I think I'm more in line with Lisa, where my concern is more about, like, does it follow the same path that mobile phones have, where it's controlling and it's all about advertisement, it's all about the business side. But otherwise, I'm actually very optimistic that it won't be this dangerous, addictive thing that kind of takes society away from the real world.
Interesting.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Ricky. I completely agree with that. Thanks for bringing all that perspective in.
Whew, nice deep breath. Matthew, are you there? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I hear you. Sorry for the issues.
No problem.
Yeah, so we were still on the impact of these technologies, right?
Sure.
That
Oh
have
my
come
God.
before the metaverse.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, so I was saying, like, what you have seen with most of these technologies, for example, social media, which came before the metaverse, is that we thought they would actually bring us together, but in the real sense, they pull us apart. So we should deliberately create.
Sounds like you still got some internet issues. But I'm looking up north there, and I see Salman. Salman, what do you have to speak on our conversation?
All right. I would actually like to talk about a risk here. I am considered a very bullish person on the topic of Web3 and everything in the metaverse, and I love it. I love where AR is going, where VR is going, and everything. But there is a risk that isn't being talked about enough, and that is our level of reliance on technology. And now with the emergence of AI, our reliance has increased even more and more, to the point where it could lead to deterioration of our imagination, our creativity, even our critical thinking. It's as easy as now typing something into ChatGPT and getting any answer you want, which is what happened with Google, which is really affecting the way we think as individuals, and that should be controlled.
I agree, but it also has the potential, because as humanity, like we need to evolve. So if we use like technology, AI or whatever, like to be more efficient, but not like you were saying, if we start like losing our problem solving skills, I think like obviously that's very negative. But if we use, I'm very excited about efficiency, like how to like build faster, but it should be done right. I agree. It could be like something positive or negative.
Yeah, I love how we can pair ourselves, our brains, with AI to create wonderful results. But as humans, we tend to overuse what makes us comfortable. That's human nature. So what we should do is also advocate for responsible use.
This is interesting. I want to go to Samantha. She's in the communication. She's a leadership coach. She deals with, some of these things, and you want to be more efficient in your communication and collaborations. How do you see the use of these emerging technologies affecting what you do?
Yeah, thank you for asking. I absolutely see the opportunity from an education perspective, right? So we're talking about risk, but from the optimistic and the positive side of things as well within education, and being able to integrate the part of humanity that we're talking about today during this panel is what makes us human, our emotions and our diversity and our perspectives and our wisdom, our journey, our struggles, our upbringing, our environment. Like I could keep going, right? I mean, there's multiple dimensions that what makes us who we are, individually different and diverse. And so for me, I think that there is a great opportunity to use it to our advantage for visual communication, to bring us together from that humanity perspective.
The polarization is real. And it really depends. I'm going to say it like this, because we're talking about humanity, technology, and the metaverse, is that we've got to look at the human evolution. We're evolving now as a species with the technology that we're building. But don't think of technology as something foreign. It is just, ChatGPT is a collection of human thought. It's us. It's just balled all together, but it's us. It is us as a human race now, put together in a very fashioned way, very two-dimensional, still rudimentary. But as you can see in a lot of our science fiction, how do we utilize these brains to help us to get information quicker, to communicate decision support quicker? Those are the things you start looking at positive use cases. Just like anything else, you could take anything and abuse it, and then it's going to be detrimental, right? And you need education about that, right? Right? If you get too much water, you will drown. But water is typically good for you. You can't live without it. So it's a balance, right? So we've got to evolve with our tech, and we've got to really, to me, and I've talked to Christopher about this, I believe the human race is on the precipice of a renaissance. Between now, we've really gotten kind of good with our analyticals and our analytical technologies, and that's really what we're talking about. But our creativity has been locked down. Art, our music, the way to be expressive, to look at things differently, not just one dimensionally, can be really released through all the different communication channels that we have worldwide, that'll just explode into a flowering of human experience. That is what I am looking for. And before we take off, we've only got a few minutes here. I want each of you to take a minute, just express to us what you felt about this particular panel and what you think the future will hold for you. So we'll start with Salman.
All right. First of all, thank you for having me. This was a wonderful panel, and I would love to continue the discussion later on, of course. We talked about the positives and the negatives, and at the moment, I believe the positives do outweigh the negatives moving forward. If we do raise awareness, if we do unite to create the Web3 that we want, we will achieve the Web3 that we want. And That's all I have to say. And I hope we can build a world that is better for people and that empowers people in the future.
I love that. Love that optimism. How about you, Ricky?
I'm just so appreciative that there's people like the people that we have on the panel having these conversations, because it is so important. Like when you're talking about emerging technology like extended reality, like artificial intelligence, and the impact it could have on society and how we all interact, like that's a big thing. That's not small. Like that's really, really big. And none of us alone have any answer of what the perfect way to go about it is. But through these kind of conversations, through talking about it, through the people listening and then going off and talking about it more, like that is what allows us to come as close as we can to the right answers. It's a constant work in progress. And so I'm just appreciative to be a part of it, to have great people like this here to talk about this sort of thing.
Man, very good. Heitor, what say you?
So thanks again for the opportunity to participate. I think that the future is brilliant. The future has lots of new technologies coming that will help us to enhance our access to information, and the way that you interact with this should be of your concern, right? So you should be able to choose what you want to use in your day by day. Everyone chose to have a mobile phone with you 100% of the time. So, I mean, whichever hardware that comes, it's up to you to decide if you want it integrated or not to your life. And this would be it. Thank you very much once again.
No, well said. Well said. I'm going to go to your opposite side over there to Lisa.
Oh, yeah. First of all, super grateful, Grant. Awesome job moderating, and grateful to all of the panelists. So I have things. I have some practical things that I'm going to ask everyone watching to do. The first thing is take personal responsibility for how you interact with digital. Be a good digital citizen and make sure that the choices you are making, where you are spending time online, align with your values.
Yeah.
Do you know everywhere, how your data is being used and exactly how everywhere you are online? I don't even think that I do. So I'm talking to myself too. It's a hard job today to be a good digital citizen, but it starts there. You have 100% control over that. The second thing, we all have to take professional responsibility. Every single profession plays a role in the making of this digital world. So you need to be a voice and an advocate within your own profession. I'm marketing and communications. Marketing and comms needs to lead the way and protect our audiences and make sure that their inalienable rights are served in these new communities. I hold myself personally and professionally responsible to do that. And then the last thing, I wrote a manifesto called my Manifesto to the Makers of the Metaverse. So for those people that are going to be making the metaverse, and we all have a role, but I'll send a link to this, but it's a call to action to make sure that we're respecting citizens, we're making meaning and not money, and providing access to all. So if you can join on my cause as we try to get this thing moving in the right direction. I'm very optimistic that technology is already creating, bringing together amazing audiences, just like GatherVerse, and we wouldn't be here today without it.
Amazing. I like that. Love it. Samantha.
Yes, thank you. I'm just going to say thank you for your time, everyone's time and energy showing up today, because that was the first step. Just show up and let's talk. And the awareness that we share, back to that next thing. What do we do with that awareness? We make decisions, educated decisions, right? Make your educated decisions. And then I'd like to say, I challenge all of us to think and consider, can we revolutionize communication in the metaverse?
Oh, I love that statement. Love it. Ignacio.
Yes, so thank you, for inviting me. It was, I will say, super interesting and very valuable. And I think it's about education, and that applies to Metaverse and everything that we do in life, and especially with technology. I will say that, like, making decisions in an educated way. So it's about learning and especially catching up, because now technology is producing changes in life, like now, like more often than before. So we have to catch up with a lot. So I would say, be informed of what's happening in terms of technology, even if you don't like it or your profession, because there are some late adopters, but still, like at some point, technology, well, we saw that happening during the pandemic and with the cell phone. So technology will play a huge part in our lives. So try to be educated. That would be my advice.
Got to do that. Got to do that. And Matthew.
Yeah, I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Sorry, guys, for the issues. My ISP decided to let me down today, but I'm happy to have shared the stage with you all. But sadly, I wasn't able to share my thoughts with time, but I'll I look forward to the next conversation. What I would say is, especially to the people my age, technology is always progressing and advancing very quickly, like we can see with AI right now and the metaverse. So just make sure you know what's happening, even if you are not actively participating. I usually tell people, if they ask me about the metaverse, I just tell them, go to the metaverse today and you won't have to ask anyone what the metaverse is. So it's the same with all the technologies. Just jump in and try and find your niche, because with the internet, everyone has an opportunity to either be a creator or maybe occupy a part of the digital economy. So there's a lot happening, and I think it's a time to learn new skills and just forget the old ways, because all these revolutionary technologies are creating a new internet layer that will have to be filled someday by people, and so we have to educate ourselves. But all in all, it was a great opportunity sharing the stage with you. I'll I'll continue following the GatherVerse Summit and community. Hope to share more next time.
No, that was nice. I appreciate that. It's not always how long you talk is what you say. And what you said right there was very, very, very impactful. I want to leave the audience with just this. As human beings, we talked about just now as technology, humanity, and the metaverse. Humanity is what is first. Humanity is what needs to evolve, continue to evolve, to become our full potential. We're just scratching the surfaces. Remember, we are creating the technologies, and no smaller group of humanity should have control over the larger construct. It is our responsibility to take and grow in a responsible manner. But the ultimate goal is to have a greater awareness, a greater consciousness of not only on the micro level, but on the macro level. And we'll be much better off as we look back and like, wow, that's how I viewed life. And if we can get a greater view of life through our technology, then let's do it. So thank you very much for everybody for joining us for this talk. Good night.